Hello everybody and welcome to our latest CoveTalk here at the Combat Training Centre. Today's presentation is on high-performing teams in the combined arms environment, and our presenter is Commander CTC, Colonel Ben McLennan, CSC and Bar.
Thank you for this opportunity to discuss how Army's Combat Training Centre enables high-performing teams to reach their potential to respond to crisis, to win in combat, their potential to win the first battle of the next war. Could I commence by telling you a story? It is a story about two teams, one that reached its potential as a high-performing team, the other fell tragically short. Team 1. It is the 19th of July 1916. It is the Somme offensive. The young, inexperienced and inadequately trained men of the new and hurriedly assembled Australian 5th Division sit in their trenches outside the small village of Fromelles, Flanders Fields, northern France. They were about to attack the German line. They would go over the top at sundown. They went with songs to the battle. The attack was a catastrophe. Its objectives were never realised. Indeed, the attack at Fromelles has been described as the Australian military's blackest day, its most calamitous event, with some 5,500 casualties, 2,000 dead, 1,300 never identified. In this photo, the photo on the screen, you can see 8 young Australians. 8 young Australians sitting in their trench outside Fromelles on the eve of the attack. Only 3 saw the next sunrise. While young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow, staunch to the end, Team 1 fell well short of its potential as a high-performing team. Fast forward 2 years. Team 2. In the hours before dawn on the 4th of July 1918, the Australians execute the Battle of Le Hamel. Preceded by weeks of team-based training, developing camaraderie, practicing new tactics, the Australians executed what remains described as the perfect or the textbook battle, one that was copied along the entire Western Front in the ensuing offensive that saw the beginning of the end of the war. The Battle of Le Hamel was the precursor for what the enemy, the German High Command at the time, described as their blackest day. Young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady, aglow, staunch to the end, Team 2 achieved its potential. Team 2 at Le Hamel exemplified a high-performing team. Can I offer you that there is something surprising, something special, and something significant about this story? Team 1 and Team 2 were the same team. Initially, this team fell catastrophically short of its potential at Fromelles. 2 years later, at Le Hamel, it achieved it. Could I ask you 2 questions? Firstly, could I ask you to think about what happened to that team over those 2 short years? That is, to guess the difference between the team of 1916 at Fromelles and the same team 2 years later at Le Hamel. Secondly, could I ask you to consider what it cost that team to transform from one that fell catastrophically short of its potential to one that realised arguably exceeded it? We'll circle back to those questions later on. The Combat Training Centre exists to help the Australian military's largest tactical teams reach their high-performing potential. This is our purpose, our raison d'etre. It is our why, it is why we get out of bed in the morning. The teams we help are established and they are large. They range in size from 100 to almost and in fact exceeding 10,000, spanning Army, the broader Australian Defence Force, and oftentimes our close allies. High-performing potential means their ability to respond to crisis, to win in combat, to win the first battle of the next war. That is, for them to be like the team of July 1918, the team of Le Hamel, not the team of July 1916, the team of Fromelles. How do you think we at CTC achieve this purpose, achieve this why we exist, our raison d'etre? Quite simply, we achieve it by seeking to optimise learning opportunities for the Australian military's largest tactical teams, learning opportunities that will allow these teams to reach their high-performing potential in a no-consequence training environment. Today I want to share with you what CTC does to optimise learning opportunities, to optimise the learning opportunities for those largest of Australia's military, of the largest tactical teams. What we do rests on two pillars. Pillar one is impressive. It is a global benchmark. There are no two ways about it. But pillar two, we think pillar two is a little bit of magic. I would like you to imagine that you are part of an AFL or cricket team and your training pitch is the Melbourne Cricket Ground. When you arrive at the ground, you have access to world-class facilities. Your locker is prepared. Your nutritional meals are catered. Your playbook is ready. When you take to the field to practice your playbook, you have access to elite equipment, superb training aids, including an opposing team, doctors, physios, sports psychologists, top-notch feedback tools, devices that track your every movement, a team of cellar dwellers, of analysts who code your every action, a huge video screen right in front of you, and a team dressing room configured for feedback. I reckon that being a team, an AFL team, a cricket team, training at the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, would be about as realistic and immersive as it gets. Pillar one for CTC is our Melbourne Cricket Ground. It is our MCG. It is the architecture providing our largest military teams with an unmatched, realistic and immersive learning experience, one characterised by uncertainty, chaos, friction and pressure. Like the MCG, it features world-class facilities. Our training areas are right up there with the world's best. A ready playbook characterised by rich contemporary scenarios and doctrine. World-class equipment, superb training aids, including a high-performing opponent. Access to subject matter experts, top-notch feedback tools, devices that track and record every movement and adjudicate every action. Professionals who monitor and code every event. Systems providing near instantaneous information and amenities configured for review and reflection transitioning to action. There is no doubt the Melbourne Cricket Ground is impressive, like the architecture underpinning the Combat Training Centre's training events. And this architecture goes some way to achieving our purpose, optimising learning opportunities. However, pillar two, not pillar one, pillar two is where the magic occurs. Pillar two optimises CTC's learning opportunities. Pillar two is performance coaching. Performance coaching is, as the name suggests, all about performance. In CTC's case, it's about improving the performance of the Australian military's largest tactical teams with whom we partner. Performance coaching is a highly individualised, persistent and trusting partnership between the Combat Training Centre coach and the training partner. What does it feature? It is grounded in behavioural science theory. It is guided by the principles of coach-partner interaction to optimise team learning without incurring a dependency. It employs coaching techniques and aspects of team learning to improve performance. Like executive coaching, as opposed to sports coaching, performance coaching goes beyond the boundaries of expertise. The ability to performance coach is neither innate nor taught by Army. Accordingly, annually, CTC upskills its workforce, its people, to become performance coaches with advanced partnering, questioning techniques, and small group facilitation skills. CTC's performance coaches then leverage the unmatched experience, the Melbourne Cricket Ground of architecture that is provided with CTC activities. And they fuse it together via three methods. Firstly, CTC's performance coaches encourage the right learning mindset. This mindset allows a higher level of thinking, one characterised by critical inquiry and debate, reflection, seeking feedback and stress-testing mental models and assumptions, beliefs, unpacking those assumptions, collaborating and learning from others, being willing to explore alternatives, being curious, actively listening, being sensitive to one's body language, to one's tone, to one's voice, embracing ambiguity, and being willing to go beyond one's comfort zone. Speaking of comfort zone, the right learning mindset avoids the most common saboteurs of learning, our entrenched mental models, or how we make sense of the world, our egos or self-defense mechanisms that are conditioned to defend, deflect, or deny. Negative emotions that hijack our thinking, our cognitive blind spots, our entrenched assumptions, our stew of biases, our propensity for reflexive and impulsive thinking, our aversion to change, and for all of us, our inherent laziness. Wow, that's really depressing. But that's who we are. That is our human proclivity. And through their highly individualised, persistent and trusting partnerships, the Combat Training Centre's performance coaches encourage the right learning mindset. Secondly, CTC's performance coaches empower the right learning processes. They employ a variety of learning processes to optimise learning opportunities for the Australian military's largest tactical teams. These include, but are not limited to, our partnered learning continuum, which underpins the highly individualised, persistent and trusting partnership between CTC coach and partner. The Core Strengths SDI tool, which enables our partners to know themselves and to know their teams. And we know that knowing oneself is one of the hardest things a person can do. Our CTC feedback model, called the ERTA, which our performance coaches leverage to empower review and reflection, transitioning to action. Another is the pre-mortem. Frameworks such as the Kniffen framework and the OODA loop, which you're probably all very familiar with, which, like academic and military equivalents such as recognition, prime decision making, empower our partners, our training partners, to make sense of the world beyond their entrenched mental models. We leverage a variety of coaching models, empowering our coaches to apply the theory, principles, techniques, and aspects of performance coaching. Then there's theoretical models and processes that empower our understanding and our partners' understanding of optimizing their own team's performance. The learning retention model is another, a process that empowers CTC's performance coaches to ensure that their learning remains active and not passive. Others include Ebbinghouse's forgetting model, overlearning, and the spaced repetition model. And quite simply appreciating how the brain works, how it responds to stimuli, that learning is never neat, and even the seemingly small things of human behaviour, such as the fact that we tend to communicate in threes: ready, set, go, body, mind, spirit, the good, the bad, the ugly. All of these human behaviours, our coaches understand to optimise the learning environment. The third element, or the third action that our performance coaches do, is enabling an optimal learning environment. The research is clear. The science tells us that the right learning environment is one that is focused on learning and growth. It nurtures open-mindedness and positivity. It self-regulates those saboteurs of learning: ego, self-defense mechanisms, entrenched assumptions, our stew of biases, our logical fallacies, complacency. It encourages discovery and experimentation. It actually promotes permission to speak freely and conditional permission to make mistakes. Indeed, it does not characterise mistakes as failures. The right learning environment believes that nothing is certain. It is wary of overconfidence, and it is good at not knowing. The right learning environment is not concerned with blame nor credit. It relentlessly asks itself how it can improve. Its motivation to be better is always greater than its motivation to be right. Arguably, the right learning environment is at odds with the military's nature. The military's nature is one that seeks to eradicate variance, achieve defect-free output, and avoid mistake and risk wherever possible. Moreover, many who excel in the military environment prosper because they always have the answer. For many of us in the military, our status and self-image depends on us always having the solution. By contrast, in the right learning environment, we as military professionals are ready to admit to not knowing everything and to not being as smart as we might think we are. CTC's performance coaches exhibit the courage and determination to enable that right learning environment, a learning environment in which learning is optimised. This is the monument to the team from our story, located just outside the small village of Fromelles, Flanders Field, northern France. It is sombre, solemn, subdued. It reflects Australia's blackest day. In the foreground, underneath the cross, is an unmarked mass grave where many of the 1,300 young Australians, never identified, were laid to rest. Over 2 years after the battle, on the armistice of 11 November 1918, Charles Bean, that great historian, wandered the battlefield at Fromelles and observed grimly, "We found no man's land, simply full of our dead. Skulls, bones, torn uniforms, lying everywhere." Ultimately, this sombre, solemn and subdued monument at Fromelles befits its tragedy, the tragedy of a team with so much potential falling catastrophically short of that potential. This is a monument to the same team. It overlooks the village of Le Hamel. It is situated on a rocky outcrop. It is triumphant, victorious and proud. It proclaims what remains Australia's most emphatic military achievement, the enemy's blackest day, where a large military team achieved, if not exceeded, its high-performing potential. Earlier, I asked you 2 questions. Firstly, I asked you if you could guess the difference between the team of July 1916, sitting in their trenches outside Fromelles, waiting for sundown to go over the top, and the team of July 1918 sitting in the pre-dawn darkness in their attack position just west of the village of Le Hamel. I expect in your mind you identified a range of factors, features, or characteristics. I suppose we could all agree that the team of 1918 was tangibly better than it was in 1916. In July 1916, the team was not high performing. It fell well short of its potential. 2 years later, July 1918, the same team was a high performing team, one that reached its potential. That was the difference. Earlier, I asked you a second question about what it cost for this transformation to occur. What did it cost for the team of July 1916, falling well short, catastrophically short of its potential, to realise, if not exceed its potential 2 short years later? What do you think? Historians tell us that it cost about 46,000 Australian lives, the flower of our young nation's youth. They fell with their faces to the foe. It would be naive to believe that there is no cost involved in reaching one's potential as a high-performing team, be that in peacetime or in war. The Combat Training Centre exists to help the Australian military's largest tactical teams to reach their high-performing potential so that they can respond to crisis, so that they can win in combat, so that they can win the first battle of the next war, so that they can fight like at Le Hamel when they confront their Frommels. This is our purpose. This is our why. That is to be like the team of 1918, not the team of 1916. I hope that our story encourages you in your endeavours, and I welcome any insights that you might have based on your expertise